Well, hello. Welcome to Mondays with Mover. It's Monday. I'm Mover, and today we're going to talk about the fall of Afghanistan, and we're going to reach out to a bunch of experts in the panel that I'm going to bring in right now because I don't have a whole lot to say because I was never in Afghanistan, just Iraq. So starting out, we've got someone you may know. Bring him over here, Mr. Daniel Flores. Hello. Welcome back. It's been a minute. Daniel flew Apaches and with Customs, currently flying EMS, and he's the author of the book, South of Heaven, My Year in Afghanistan. So very applicable. Link is in the description below. Please check out his book. And he's got a movie. He's got two movies, right? A documentary, two documentaries?
Yes, both. One Apache Warrior is based out of Iraq, and Above the Best is mine out of Afghanistan.
Awesome. Very, very relevant today because as the news has suggested, things are not going well there. Next up, we've got friend of the channel, Wombat, who's now at the bottom. Hello, Wombat.
Hello.
Wombat flew E2s, F-18s, sort of. I'm just messing with. You had to give me stuff. All right. Hornets, T-45s. He's an instructor in the airline industry and multiple combat deployments to the region, and he's the author as well. A lot of book writers around here of Treason Flight, and that link will be in the description as well. And there's some stuff in Afghanistan in that theater as well, right, Wombat?
Yes, sir.
All right, buy his book as well. Next up, we've got Gonky, man who needs no introduction. So let me introduce him. He is Gonky. I mean, what? He flew Hornets. He went to Afghanistan a lot. And believe it or not, TBear just showed up. And so number 5. Oh, TBear. What's up? The Cropbuster. Oh, he's not. He's voice only.
Yeah, I'm voice only. The lighting in here is so bad. It
We
didn't work well.
we don't get to see if you guys are doppelgangers or not, though, man. That's all. That's all we've been talking about.
Hey, Gonky, how's it going?
Good, TBear. Good to hear your voice, man.
Same here.
Yeah. And so TBear, for those of you that don't know, he's been on the channel before too, voice only. We've never seen his face. He may not have one. TBear flew A-10s, Desert Storm, flew the F-16. Which war was that, TBear?
F-16?
Yeah. Which war did you do that one?
We're in Kosovo.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then you went to Afghanistan, and I was telling Daniel earlier, we were talking, you actually, and I think we'll start with you because you were there when Bagram became Bagram Air Base, right? You helped stand that up, and you were one of the first ones in the A-10.
Yeah, we got there. A-10s had been there maybe 3 weeks when we got there. We relieved the active duty. They had moved in. They had actually done that one big operation, and then they moved out and we took over.
And what was it like there? I mean, what were the initial conditions like? How had the Russians left it?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. In fact, Dirty, who was a Marine in Desert Storm, said it was the worst conditions he had ever lived in. So,
oh my God,
that ought to tell you something. Now, it was Wild Wild West. I mean, there were plenty of landmines still in the airfield, and we had little paths we would follow, or you didn't get off the asphalt. And we were living in Army GP medium tents. We had about 13 or 14 pilots per tent, and we got there in early April, and it was still pretty cold, so we were using JP8 heaters inside the tents. I don't know how we didn't burn that place down. And I'll keep going about the conditions. We got a shower like once or twice a week, and we were eating MREs. The Army would feed us one meal a day. It was a pretty good meal. Maybe, I don't know. It was probably a good meal because it was the only one a day. And but the place was rough. And I remember the big thing that excited everybody there was we got porta potties. So,
wow. Well, what year was that?
That was 2002. So we got there early April 2002. So it was
I
new.
mean, what was the atmosphere like? Were y'all working with the Afghanis at that time? I mean, kind of what was the mindset when you showed up? I mean, were you, I mean, could you have projected that this was going to be a 20-year war?
No, we were working mostly with just special ops guys. And it was, you're talking about the conditions, like the base was all blacked out. And at night, we just did everything on NVGs, and there was no outside lighting. We were getting hit with rockets and stuff like that. I mean, it was, I keep going back saying it was Wild Wild West, but it really was.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gonky, what year did you start deploying into Afghanistan? 07. All right. Well, then more chronologically, I think, Daniel, you were 05 or 06?
2006.
Yeah. What was it like then? I mean, so we're talking a 4-year difference. What were the conditions like then?
Bagram finally had running water and electricity by then, but literally what TBear was saying, you had to stay on certain paths, even on the runway. You could not taxi in certain areas because there were landmines, and actually they were trying to build it so fast they put some of the concrete and some of the steel beach is what we called it, that PSP, on unknown landmine fields, and they had to pull them out while we were there. But you did not step off the trails because landmines were all over the place, and every morning you would hear the explosions of the mine sweeping vehicles off to the east of the runway. It looked like a bunch of combines out in Kansas, bringing up the corn or something like that. They were all in line, and they'd have these big steel drums with these big steel chains flopping around in front of them. And then every now and then you'd hear you'd hear little booms here and there, but every now and then you'd hear a huge explosion that would shake the base, and that's when the big either artillery shells or anti-tank mines that they would hit. So, yeah, if still porta-cans, they finally got some of those wooden bee huts that we stayed in, but they were full of holes. It was super cold in the winter and super hot in the summer.
So, TBear, we were going back to what you and I were talking about a little bit earlier about the origins of our involvement in the Middle East, but this has been a 20-year war, but it really goes back to when you were in Desert Storm.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you on the telephone. I mean, when you talk about what effect this had on our Air Force, after Desert Storm, it never stopped. I mean, we had Operation Southern Watch, Operation Northern Watch, continuously rotating units. And, when you had reserve units going through, so you were burning their dwell over there. And it also did a couple of things. There was a time period where Northern Watch and Southern Watch essentially had zero acceptable risk. And there was a generation of fighter pilots that, were completely hesitant to ever risk their aircraft. And that was because, they grew up and spent, their 10-year career in a situation where they, no risk was acceptable. Obviously, we overcame that, and then once we got into Afghanistan stuff, it turned around. But what I was trying to say about that is that it has been a drain. We've used up the wings on our A-10s. We've used up the wings on our F-16s. We've used up people. We've used up the people's patience and everything since 91. We have continuously been cycling people through that region, and it has taken a toll.
Yeah. Wombat, hello.
Hi.
How are you? But you actually, did you spend more time in theater in the E2 or the F-18?
E2 initially 2005, 6, and 8, and then F-18 in 2010.
So what, what TBear was talking about as far as, the effect on air power and the effect on cycles on the airframe. I mean, were you guys flying anyway, or did it have a marked impact on E2 ops and I know it did in the Hornet, but just, flying as much as you were for burning holes in the sky for.
Oh yeah,
cats.
no, we my E2 time, I have tons of time just going up there, controlling air assets, talking to the ground. The guys in the back did, for the most part, a phenomenal job. Just basically being airborne air traffic controller types, cycling everybody in and out from everything from, helping direct the assets, airborne to who needed it on the ground, to getting people to tankers, to, you name it. Gonky knows well, his air wing, when they had, not in that region, but they had a mishap, it was the E2s that actually launched from our ship to help out, and really multi-role. I've talked about it before, but the E2 really kind of changed its skin a little bit to be adaptable for that region, and did really well over the course. But it was interesting, TBear, I know we haven't talked before, but I've watched it in my career go. When I was in the E2, everybody was dropping. There was, risk meant nothing. Fangs out, I believe, is what our CAG would say. And then I finally got to transition to the Hornet, and the pendulum had swung all the way back to what you were talking about. And it was, you needed to convince yourself to drop. You needed, I believe, the specific verbiage was, you need to walk to your jet knowing that you're going to have to be convinced to drop your ordnance instead of the complete opposite. So it really is a cycle, which means I truly am getting old now that I've watched the whole cycle happen. And I know Gonky dealt with the same thing because he's smiled as well.
Gonky, how was it from the fleet perspective, man? You flew a lot of combat time in the Hornet, from the boat. Talked about that. Like, how was that, and what was the effect on, kind of your the aviator?
Like TBear said, and we're all nodding our heads, it just kills the time of the airplane. So, you take an airplane like a F-18 or an F-16, man, I was flying 6 to 8 hour missions in that thing. It was not designed to take off, travel 500 miles, tank 3 times. Dude, it really wasn't built for that. And all the flight hours, we had brand new Super Hornets, and while I was in, Boeing was like, hey, you guys are going through the flight hours here faster than we projected, right? Because the Navy's like, build us an airplane that'll take us to 40, and they're like, hey, these things are going to time out well before that. So that was pretty obvious, amongst all of us, that we were really, really burning our assets up. And TBear touched on the manpower piece too. And like Daniel, in the Navy, they started doing these Army appreciation tours, and they were involuntary, most of them. And Mover will tell you that's why I'm still not flying the Hornet right now, because I was probably going to get tagged for my second one. And, I'd already done my Army appreciation tour. I don't want to do it again, right? Because I joined the Navy. I want to fly fixed wing, whatever. But, that really drove a lot of manpower out. When I was a RAG IP, when I first showed up as an instructor, every single instructor who could get out of the Navy at the time was getting out of the Navy at the time, because they had done, they come off a fleet tour where they were flying missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. They check into their fleet tour, no quals. The skipper's like, cool, you're useless. Go spend a year in Afghanistan, right? Back to back, deployable tours. So, it was a tremendous strain on the airplanes and on the personnel too. And then shortly after I left the fleet, things got real crazy, because if you weren't on deployment, you got no FLIRs, you got no practice bombs, you probably got no gas, so the guys who were at home trying to train didn't have anything to train with, because everything that worked and was usable was in theater. So it was a big strain on the Navy.
Yeah, and Daniel, the Army took the biggest brunt of the Army, Marines, guys on the ground. How did it affect you in the Army?
When I got called up, it's because I was in the reserves. So all the active duty guys had already gone to Iraq at least twice. And,
gosh.
at least at that time, the tour of duty was 1 year. And I was lucky enough that when I went, it was still 1 year. And right as I left, they dropped it down to 9 months in country. But yeah, we were rolling through airframes like nothing the whole time there. And pilots also, we were pulling people out of the ready reserve, bringing them back in and sticking them through the course. And because most of our front seaters were brand new in the Apache, we were lucky that all 8 of us pilot in commands there with the Apache, with my squadron, we were either instructor pilots, maintenance test pilots, or standardization instructor pilots. So, but all of our front seaters were brand new to the aircraft.
Wow. And TBear, I mean, so one of the things I've mentioned is with the retention piece, we've lost kind of our ability to train. We've focused all of our training on the current threat, which is the CAS and the counterinsurgency and stuff like that. For a lot of airframes, that's really bad because, like for an F-16, it's not. I mean, that's not really the primary mission. But for the A-10, do you think the A-10 actually gained a bit out of these wars?
That's a good point. Back to what I was saying, it really flip-flopped because I was disappointed because when I grew up as a young A-10 pilot, our whole job was to take care of the 18-year-old on the ground. And, that was it. The only thing that was important was the 18-year-old on the ground. And then after those years of Southern Watch, Northern Watch, the A-10 community had kind of gotten risk adverse. And I was a little embarrassed of it at one point. And then once we got to Afghanistan, we certainly, rehomed back to what's important, the 18-year-old on the ground. And, guys did what it took. And it really changed the mentality back to where the A-10 should be. And so, yeah, I think the A-10 actually did get back to where it belonged out of that. But you're right. The other airplanes like F-16s, when I flew F-16s in back in the 90s, it was like we had to do like 4 CAS sorties a year.
Yeah.
And I remember when Afghanistan first started, the F-16 guys would say, oh, we had to do a bunch of emergency CAS. And we're like, emergency CAS? There was no ground fact? Well, yeah, there was a ground fact. Well, then that's not emergency CAS. Well, yeah, because it wasn't pre-planned. And we go, oh, that's just CAS. And you can see how it took the F-16 mentality of, that CAS was very, very small part of what they did. And it actually ended up becoming a lot of what they did. So it changed their mentality. But you're right. If you spend all your time doing that, it takes it away from the, high level near peer war, which our 5th and 4th gen really need to train to.
Well, and that's a good point too. I mean, with we're talking a 20-year period, we lost F-22 buys because money is, although we print as much as we want, it's finite, right? So we went to 187 F-22s. We had problems with the F-35. We were running out of airframe life. I remember the F-16. It's what, an 8,000 hour airframe, or no, it was extended to 8,000 hours, and they extended it even. Yeah. So they extended it to 8,000. I think they've gone to 10 now, but you've got these airframes that you need money to keep flying because we're just stuck in this current war. And then the people side of it, you're losing guys from attrition because, well, all they're doing is CAS. They're not talking about the next threat as much and training for it, and they're getting burnt out and leaving. So that corporate knowledge, I mean, wouldn't you think that's a big problem as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it'll help on probably you've lost a lot of the CAS corporate knowledge by now since it's slowed down for a while. But, to bring your point, I must just talk about another symptom. And I don't know if it was from the war or from different generation or whatever, but Jax, Jax, the commander at 301st, he went to the Air Force Academy to try to convince guys to be fighter pilots because used to be people went to the academy because it was a pretty sure path to a fighter, and he had to go and try to get people just to even want to fly airplanes. And a lot of it was they're like, I don't want to go, sit in a hellhole every other year and do that. So
Well, Wombat,
also,
you're nodding your head, Wombat. Was that the same thing in the Navy?
Yeah, in training, it was. I watched it over my career. It was unbelievable. I mean, when Gonky and I went through flight school, you would do anything for a fighter slot, and tip of the spear, all that. And towards the end there, on my last active duty tour, you had to talk guys into it, and they're like, "Well, the P8 that gets me a lot of multi-engine time," and I'm like, "Okay, but." Realize different communities and this and that. And, that it was a whole different way of thinking. The warfighter mentality was gone. And I have my own theories about why, and we've talked about them, but there was still a few, and I saw it more in the Marine students. They still had that bred into them, I think, pretty young, but it seemed like the Navy guys, it was, I never thought I would have to sit a class down and convince them they wanted to go F-18s.
Wow.
And it blew me. It really did.
Wow. Gonky, is Top Gun going to fix that?
Oh, man. This could go both ways. This could be just awesome, or it could just be awesomely bad. I don't know.
I think you know.
So
I'm holding out, man.
Today, the video has surfaced. Have you guys seen the C-17 and the people? I wanted to show this. Because one of the things I read is that the C-17 guys are now coming back with issues because they actually had to cycle gear to get these people from hanging off, because for the long trip and stuff, and it's pretty bad for these crews and for kind of how we left. But check this out. I want to hear what you guys think of this. All right. Gentlemen, thoughts?
I got one word: betrayal.
Betrayal by whom? Us or them?
Us.
Yeah.
You get people. I'm just heartsick for the Afghanis that actually sided with us, that had our interpreters, the people that worked with us, worked side by side with us, and Taliban's going to be lopping heads off, probably already are. And a lot of these people running alongside probably know that's coming. And, they went down, oh, yeah, let's go. We'll vote. We'll change our country. Everything will be great. And then we didn't help them. We didn't secure it for them. They should have done better. Obviously, they should have done better. But
yeah, there's a lot of military age males in that video.
Yes, there are.
Where are the women? Not a lot.
Well, some are in the airplane. I did see a picture.
I did.
And some are in the airplane. And, these could have been families of some of the people in the airplane. And another thing is, one reporter in Kabul said there were no women and children on the streets. I'm sure they're hiding.
Yeah, or they've gone to Pakistan. Or they've picked up and tried to get out of country, right?
Yeah, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible for the women.
Daniel, you spent a lot of time on the ground, and one of the documentaries you did, one of the guys you had that close air support scenario with, they were embedded with the Afghans and fought. You were right there going through towns. You're talking about popping off flares to try to get their heads down and stuff. Talk about working with the Afghanis. Why do you think, with as much training and money as we put into it, at this point, 300,000 ANA couldn't hold off 75,000 Taliban.
Yeah, there's no way, because the Afghans, there was maybe less than 1% of the ones that were in the Afghan National Army that actually had the will to fight. Nasser, the interpreter that we had on the ground with Best and Hall, it's like he said in the doc, he would do anything for his country. That was less than 1% of those people that would do that. And and the special ops guys for the Afghan army that we worked with. I mean, they wanted to do it. They wanted to be there. There just aren't enough of them to, maybe 1,000 of them versus, the rest of the country. It's just not going to hold up. And that's what I feel sorry for is, Nasser, we at least brought him here and his family, but, obviously not his extended family or anything like that. So they're back there, and it's like TBear said, they're going to get their heads lopped off, especially as Terry Best said, whenever they would allow the Afghan soldiers to have a weekend to go home from one of the FOBs, they would take off their military uniforms at the forward base, wherever they were at, and put on their local, man jammies, man dresses, whatever you want to call it. And one of them, I should say one of them, a group of them got on a truck, headed back. The Taliban had set up a checkpoint on the road and had them all stripped down. And that's when they found out the ones that had the decent underwear and the decent socks, those were the ones that were working with the Afghan National Army, and they killed them right there. So,
wow.
Yeah, there was no way they could ever get away from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that happened quite a bit. We went to where Cop Keating, or that mission, the Outpost, that the movie, The Outpost. Before, as we were setting that up, a family that had helped us, help the ground guys set up in that area, they were going to get killed. So we went in the middle of the night with the Chinooks, and obviously I went in with the Apache covering them. They landed and picked up the entire family and took them back to Jalalabad. And I think from there they probably took them to Bagram, but I'm not sure. But we did quite a few missions like that where we would go in and help the families that were helping us, getting them out of their villages, because once the Taliban found out that they had helped the Americans, yeah, they were as good as dead. We did that a lot.
Wow. Gonky, I mean, having grown up in the region, and deployed there, I mean, what do you think about, how they responded and kind of how they were over 20 years, how it came to this?
Well, I think Daniel probably, he probably explained it the best. I remember in 1990, living in Saudi Arabia, where I grew up, I went to bed and Kuwait was our neighbor. I woke up, it was Iraq was now our neighbor. And, the Kuwaitis just took off and flew south, the Kuwaiti Air Force, So, I just think the will to fight for their own country, obviously it wasn't there, right? Because like you said, there's a whole bunch of military age guys running after that C-17. But it always amazed me the entire time I was growing up there as a kid. There's always a war going on. There's just violence in that region all the time. And, having worked in Malaysia, a Muslim country, they're the most laid back, calmest people, so I'm not one of these guys that really points to the religion as the issue. I don't know what it is, man. There's a lot of fighting over there. And then for some reason, for whatever causes they're fighting for, it just seems like they don't want to fight for their own country or for at least freedom. At least that's the impression I get from the experience I've had.
Daniel, I want to show you, going back to videos, I had one more. We talked about it a little bit. This is Apaches clearing off the runway to get the C-17. So I want to play this. I want to get your thoughts on it. And also for the group, how do these people get home? So here we go. Here's the video.
That Apache right there that kind of pulled up, I'm wondering if people were throwing stuff at him.
Yeah. You think they were hostile to him?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's always somebody in the crowd that's going to have something that's going to throw at him and all. And that's all the time. And like I said before, God help those guys because they were most likely fully armed, but God help them if they had to, if they would have taken a shot at the crowd to disperse them, then all of a sudden now we're the enemy abandoning, the Afghan country, and as opposed to supposedly an ally betraying them.
Well, how do they get home? Like, what happens now for these Apaches?
Yeah. Well, hopefully they don't leave them there like they did the MRAPs and stuff like that. But it takes several days to package down an Apache and load it in the back of a C-17. And like I said, a C-17 can hold about 4 of them. So, and that doesn't even include the mechanics and all that have to break the Apache down. And then once they put it in the C-17, now everybody's got to get in it. So who knows what's going to happen to those Apaches? Who's going to be the last ones out of there?
Well, TBear, what do you think about that? I mean, as far as last ones out and stuff like that, I mean, you were there first ones in, so how is it going to work last ones out for something like that?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, it could go bad. It could go bad. You know, when was the last time we did this? Saigon?
Benghazi?
Benghazi.
I mean,
yeah, Benghazi. I mean, we didn't do very good in that. I guess it is kind of a NEO, isn't it? We actually trained for those. You know, I'm assuming we're going to take what we can and then just thermite what we can't, and just get out of there. I mean, we already left too much crap over there for them. Yeah. You know, I was thinking, I want to go back about people helping. You know, it goes all the way back to like we had carpenters on base building stuff. We had Afghanistan has a lot of rocks, but they don't have the right size rocks to make concrete. So the runway at Bagram was a piece of crap, and it had all these big holes in it. So they would take a load of gravel to a family, and they would break it up with a hammer into the right size rocks. I mean, all these people helped us, and I bet those Taliban have long memories. And I'm worried about all of those folks.
Yeah, there was an article about them taking. There was a picture with some soft guys, and the interpreters were with them. And they said, like, every one of those guys had already been found and, you know, beheaded, or they hanged them or whatever in front of their house because they had personnel records.
Yep.
And I did. Go ahead.
Well, I'm saying that's why I go to that betrayal word. You know, I mean, were we specifically betraying the guy hanging on the side of the airplane? Maybe not, but it's just the overall, it's the flavor of the whole thing. You know, we did it in Vietnam, over in Laos. We abandoned a whole bunch of people over there. Hell, Benghazi, we abandoned our own people. It's bad.
Well, and so one of the other articles in the news was they got a drone and MRAPs and guns and all that stuff, but they said they got an F-15 sim, and I don't think the Taliban are going to figure that out, because more than likely they pulled the hard drive. So people worried about that, them learning how to fly F-15s. It's not going to happen, but unless they get DCS or something. But
no, but how about, you know, they were doing the A-37 or A-39 training at Moody with the Afghans.
Yeah.
Didn't we give them C-130s and A-39s? I mean, they have some military aircraft, don't they?
Yeah, they have the A-29 Super Tucano, which got shot down. One of them got shot down, yesterday? Because he tried to defect to one of the neighboring countries and wasn't squawking the right code, and they shot him down, and one of the guys lived, the other guy died.
Oh, didn't hear that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
but I mean, I don't know if Taliban's gonna figure out how to fly them or not. But
well, they were flying Mi-8s. There was a video of a Taliban, because it's just defector pilots. I mean, they're going and.
That's exactly it. We've left them the Mi-8s, Mi-9s, the no Hinds that I ever saw there, but and the old 46s, the Frogs, but the civilian version of those, and a lot of the Afghan pilots were flying those. So,
did we leave them any Apaches?
I don't think so. I hope not.
Well, they have Blackhawks, right?
They have Blackhawks, yeah.
Dude, all we really did in 20 years here was equip the Taliban and taught them our tactics.
Yep. That's exactly it.
Wombat, what do you think, man?
I think I don't disagree with anything that's being said. I think the thing that we all need to do, in my opinion, is think about us too, and how this takes a toll on the people that have spent their whole career basically fighting this war. And to see it go away so quickly it's a lot of mixed emotions. I mean, it definitely hit me 4:30 in the morning driving to work the other day, just thinking about it. I've had a lot of people reach out to me. A lot of people in the civilian sector who have never been military, seem to have the opinion of, why aren't you pissed? Like, are you angry at this? And it's funny, I'm not, because I never, and we talked about this, I've never shed a tear, a drop of sweat, or a drop of blood for any politician or political decision. It's always been for my brother or sister next to me, the person on the carrier, the person on the ground, the people that were helping. And I think right now, as a group of veterans, we need to remember that. There's a lot of people that are going through a lot right now and asking a lot of questions about why.
Yeah.
And we as a nation can very quickly forget about that. And I think that would be very detrimental.
Your shirt is a good example. Gold Star family members that now don't know the brotherhood, which boy or girl, but the brotherhood that we have, and don't know about fighting for the person next to you, now look at this and go, I lost my husband or whatever to a war that was meaningless in their eyes, that we accomplished nothing.
I talked to my wife about it tonight. There are 11 friends that I know personally that are no longer here because of either supporting aviators, or training for this war, and I'm sure others have more. And Gonky and I, we were on a carrier 500 miles away. So I think as veterans, and I'll put it out here and I'll put it out anywhere, if anybody needs to talk, there's ways to get a hold of me. It's that talking is huge right now because this is personal. It's not, it touched everybody differently, but it's personal and it's going to affect people. And I personally will not wait for my leaders, if I can use that term relatively loosely, to come up with a way to help veterans. I'm going to help the people I can personally because I don't believe that help is coming. So,
well, hey, Mover.
Yep.
I was talking about this yesterday to my wife. I said, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm very concerned about our 22 suicides a day going up out of this. Just because people had friends there or themselves hurt, and then see, just now it seems like totally useless. And I am worried about that, and don't know what you can do about it. And I hope I'm wrong. I just I'm concerned that number is going to go up.
I would tell, if anybody's watching, if you do want to talk to somebody, if you don't want to reach out to one of us, Military One Source. Even if you're not in the military, if you're a veteran, you can talk to the people that will get you help. And, it's confidential. There's no record keeping. They give you 12 free sessions a year. And if it goes beyond that, they'll refer you out and stuff. But if you just need somebody to talk to, Military One Source is that good. It's, I think it's probably one of the best things they've done that's come out of this. So, Gonky, you got anything about that? What else, what do you have to add? You're being a little quiet today.
No, we're all on the same page. It's kind of, the other guys might not know, but Mover knows. I don't have cable or the news.
Same.
I'm not on social media, so literally, I get all my news from Mover, and I'm super shocked. It's literally the other day we're in Afghanistan. Today, I'm like, wait, we're out, and I guess the thing that really hits me is I never thought in TBear, I don't know, man. Since you were around when it first kicked off in the military, I was in OCS in 2002, but I would have never dreamed 20 years later we would still be there. There's the young lieutenants that we're getting in our unit now, all they've ever known is war over there kind of thing. And to me, psychologically, as a person growing up, there's just always a war over that. I didn't grow up like that. So, I got mixed emotions on the whole thing. It's I'm thankful we're leaving, but at the same time, I really feel for 20 years, the betrayal word comes up, right? You build up these relationships with people who literally are going to pay the ultimate price now for it. And for what? I mean.
Well, I think it's important to point out that, soldiers win battles, but politicians lose wars. And that's exactly, I mean, every man and woman that, fought their best and did what they needed to do, but it wasn't them that lost this. It was the politicians. And TBear, in the early stages of the war, did you have as much intervention? I mean, when Wombat was talking about it, at the end there, if you dropped, it was like JAG investigation. You had 06s watching your tapes and stuff. I mean, what was it like? You talk about the Wild West, and Daniel, you can talk to this too. I mean, how was it different early on, and why did it change?
Well, I was there in 02 and 04, and when I say Wild West, it wasn't necessarily the employment, but it was just it was kind of like, I won't say lack of rules, but rules were lax, and we were doing things like nobody had ever taken off and landed A-10s, NVGs in a combat arena, and we were out there just, okay, well, let's learn how to do it, and we were flying NVGs off of a crappy runway at Bagram that had holes in it bigger than the airplane, literally, at night, and but as far as in 02, to definitely, if you had to employ, you had to employ. It wasn't a big thing. It was just the ROE was, if the ground factoid, you drop something, you drop something. 04, kind of the same way, and then I think it got even more. I won't say lax, but even more employment for a few years there. But back in the beginning, it was just whatever the Army needed. And in 02, we did not employ a lot because we weren't really meeting a lot of opposition. 04 more so because we were in close contact and we were doing a lot of special forces support where they needed some weapons, and or the Taliban or actually Al Qaeda out there with foreign fighters attacking convoys and things like that. So we were doing troops in contact, because the fight was on.
Yeah, and Daniel, you talk about that in your book about how it was kind of the forgotten war, and that was probably one of the worst years when you were out there.
Yeah, as TBear said, when we showed up in January of 6, the only real fighting that was happening before that was Operation Red Wing, with Lone Survivor, that movie and all, and that was 6 months prior. But our first guy got hit, remember, about the second weekend, and the rules of engagement for us was like, hey, if it needs killing, kill it. You're responsible for your rounds, because remember, everything was in Iraq at that time, and but things ramped up real fast, like TBear was saying. A lot of soft close air support and a lot of troops in contact, and things just ramped up big time. It was the resurgence of the Taliban in 2006 when we were there. So by the time we left, everybody was getting in a fight at least 2, 3, 4 times a week by the time we were leaving. So yeah, it was the Wild West when we showed up, and even more so when we left, because it only got worse, the fighting. And the rules of engagement were still pretty lax up until about 2008, somewhere in there. Then they started clamping down on stuff as Iraq was kind of dying down.
Yeah. Gonky, what was your experience as far as, how they were micromanaging your war? I mean, you went a couple times, so.
07, it wasn't, like Daniel was saying, it actually depended on the theater, man. So kind of when I was there, Afghanistan was pretty much, you get the guy's initials on the ground and boom, you're off to the races. When we did Iraq, it was a whole nother, I think, because at the time Iraq was a real sore point with the media. And so it was, nobody employed anything. We watched a lot of bad people do bad things, waiting to get clearance. But, we'd always run out of gas or time. And it just seemed like the ROE for the individual theaters were pretty much 180 out. But when I was in Afghanistan, it wasn't bad. If there was stuff going on the ground and the JTAC wanted you to take it out, you're going to take it out. You still had to, got back to the ship intel. They're going to look at your tapes, and the pressure was on. I mean, if the bomb missed a little bit, you could definitely get in trouble. I mean, I don't have as much combat time as like Daniel and TBear, but I remember as a new guy, right before I released weapons for the real deal, I remember thinking, man, I hope I'm not screwing this up because they'll fry me. I had that real fear because I had all these like rules going through my head. But I mean, but yeah, that was my experience with it. It really depended on the theater. But 07 timeframe, Afghanistan was pretty relatively liberal with their employment.
And Wombat, how did that vary from your experience?
180 out. I mean, it was amazing. What Gonky just talked about, and that's why I wanted to transition. That's what I saw every day as an E2 guy on the LSO platform, was watching these Hornets and Super Hornets coming back Winchester, doing the mission they were trained to do, to be the tip of the spear, helping the guys on the ground. I wanted that. That's what I wanted when I joined, and I wanted it again, and I got it, and it was the complete opposite. It was,
Wombat.
it blew my mind. I mean, because literally I left an air wing as an E2 guy and came back to the same air wing with the same squadrons. Some of the same people that were in my E2 squadron were still there, and now I'm a Hornet guy. Wow. And it was completely different. I mean, literally completely different. I remember my first CAG telling us in Fallon, when we prepared for our first deployment, he said, if you ever drop, I've got your back. You go out there like you're going to fight to win, knife in the teeth. The only thing that matters is your wingman and the guy on the ground. That's it. He goes, I have your back. You have my word. That is not the speech we got from our leader in 2010. In fact, it was quite the opposite. There was actually 2 JAG lawyers in the meeting to explain to us all the ROE. And I had already done 3 deployments, granted in the E2, but you're still around the carrier, you're more comfortable. And I remember the new guys in my squadron, they were like, how do I process all this in my Hornet? And I go, you don't. That's the thing, man. Like, you can't. You take that risk, you push the button, it's on you. But the only thing I would tell guys is I go, be sure that you know where our guys are. That's the only thing that matters. I go, be sure you know where our guys are, because no matter what you think the Navy can do to you, if you employ incorrectly based on their BS rules that they made up in that particular hour while you were flying up to Afghanistan that have changed by the minute, you will not, it will be worse on you if you have a blue on blue. You won't be able to live with yourself. So be sure, that's the one thing. And, you saw it. I mean, planes were coming back with, full, the ordies were bored because they would just fuel them, send them back up. So it was completely different. It was tough, man. It really was. It was tough because it was like training and wanting, to use a football analogy or a sports analogy, you trained for the big game and you got to sit on the sideline, a lot of it. Not all of it. There were some stories that have yet to be told.
Was that book 2?
Maybe. So it's all fiction. Remember, it's all fiction. So because my stories are unbelievable, according to some of my critics.
Oh boy.
Which I think is funny. So I am happy that they are unbelievable, because that means that those readers have lived a very comfortable, privileged life and don't think that evil is out there. So
wow.
That's
wow.
my take. But.
Well, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I wanted to take a couple questions from the audience if you have time, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and we'll cut it down. Although I'm reading the comments section and it's nothing but political arguing. So I'm not sure there are any questions, just arguing about whose fault it is. Let's see. Anybody at all? Oh, here we go. Here, nope, don't want to answer that one. This is TBear's question. Do you employ a flamethrower to kill a fly?
It should work, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Well,
Here we
with
go.
Our motto: kill something
Well,
every day, no matter how small, just to stay proficient.
Exactly. And hell, I've been killing things with an airplane still today.
Yeah, it's true. You do kill pests. So this is less for me. Did the ROE come on administration change, or was it for leadership? I will say, personally, for me, I showed up in Iraq in January of 2009, and it was like the next day ROE changed. So I know where I was, it did, but did it change for you guys?
What's this leadership that people keep talking about?
Management.
Oh,
Management.
management.
There's
definitely management. Definitely management.
TBear? I guess nobody.
All the ROE. I was going to say all the ROE comes. It's all politically motivated. It's it's never going to be what's going to save our butts and win the war. It's always politically directed.
Okay, how about this one? What would you guys command the military to do about Afghanistan if you were all a joint president? Gonky, that's your question.
You can't get 5 fighter guys to agree.
Yeah.
Well, he's a helo guy, so he's a fighter helo guy.
I mean, the operator. I mean, I just want to load up a machine and go freaking light stuff on fire, right? But I mean, I don't know, man. I grew up over there in that part of the country. I fought in that part of the country. I'll be completely honest. I'm not sure there's a solution. If there's people that just don't want to get along, I mean, I don't know, man.
All right, here's one from Bear. How is it that this is not even Afghanistan related? How is it that British pilots are so fat they can't run an infantry test? Because I'll answer that. Because they don't need to run because they're too busy killing stuff.
There you go.
You don't need to run when you're killing stuff. In fact, we haven't had a PT test with the Air Force. They went all the COVID time, and the Air Force still runs without it.
The Marines just canceled their next one.
Yeah, there you go. Have any of you been active during the 1999 Kosovo conflict? That's you, TBear.
Yeah. That was a lot of ROE. Yeah, we watch guys, violate that, but it was tough to do anything about it. And yeah, we had our hands tied pretty good on that one.
Yeah. Are the rules? I don't think any of us know that or want to know. Are the rules different for drone pilots? I would say it's theater specific.
I'd say it's probably the same. You just can drink more coffee while you're doing it. So.
Yeah.
All right, one more question. Let's see here. Should the Air Force? All right, this is not a question. Should the Air Force make a new A-10? TBear?
Yeah, but it needs to be more like an A-10 and not like an F-35. It would be nice to have a new airplane. They are getting old, and there are some things you could do better. But it's still, I would love to have a CAS CSAR only platform.
Can I just say that every airplane needs to be more A-10 and less F-35?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's one. This is just for the safe space. Is everything going to be okay?
Totally fine. Everything's fine. Fine. You're fine.
It's the guy sitting in the room when it's burning. This is fine. This is going to be just great. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate all of you and your time. Thanks for coming on the channel and talking about, I know this is kind of a sensitive topic, but I just wanted to, the other thing too is exactly what Wombat said. We have to honor those that did the job. You know, I mean, it's the soldier does what they're ordered to do, and the airman and the sailor. So it's not. It has nothing to do with what the end result was. It's how they fought during. And I think everybody needs to remember that. And if you know somebody that is affected by it, talk to them. Let them talk, because you know that we bled for the country in something that, you know, may not have been what we had hoped.
Agreed. Don't ever feel bad for what you did. Everybody fought hard. It doesn't matter the outcome at this point. Everybody did. So
yeah,
there's not a veteran out there that shouldn't hold their head high, except maybe some of the management. But the people that were actually there doing the fighting, hold your head high, be proud of what you did, and look out for your brothers and sisters. That's all you can do now.
Awesome. I would like to get closing thoughts, just like Wombat said, from everybody. Gonky, what you got? 10 seconds.
I can't top that, man.
TBear, you got 30 seconds, because, you know, you've been around for a while.
Oh, yeah, the old guy earned 30 seconds.
You got a full minute.
Much along the same lines, you know, when you're there, you're fighting for your brother or sister on side, and you do your best there. And what ends up happening now isn't our fault, and it isn't, you know, we did the job that was asked of us at the time. And when I say we, I mean everybody that's been there. And our coalition partners, and, you know, not just America. Right. And it's going to affect those people also. You know, there's Australians, Canadians, you know, there's a lot of stuff happened in the last 20 years. And yeah, although it looks like it was all for naught, I mean, we did keep Al-Qaeda from training terrorists in Afghanistan for 20 years, you know, and so we got something out of it. We'll see what happens in the future, but it was a good job done by all. And like Wombat said, everybody needs to hold their head high. And I really hope this does not increase our veteran suicide rate, because I'm certainly concerned about that. But yeah, it is a little disappointing. I have to admit that. This is kind of a question, but also I'm going to answer that, because go pick up Daniel's book and watch his documentary. So Daniel, you have the floor. Closing thoughts.
Hey, you know, for all the veterans out there, what Mover and TBear and Gonky and Wombat have all said, talk about it. That really helps a lot. And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, was to get it off my chest. It's a huge load that you're trying to bear by yourself if you don't tell somebody about it. And all. So we all did, for the guys on the ground and the guys and girls on the ground, all of us in the air, we did everything we could for each other to keep us all safe and alive out there. So don't ever have any regrets that we didn't do our best, all of us, for all of our allies, and even for the Afghans that fought with us and sacrificed their lives and their families for us there in Afghanistan. So definitely help each other out. Like TBear says, I don't want to see the suicide rate go up on this at all.
Awesome. Well, Daniel, Wombat, TBear, Gonky, thanks so much. We'll see you guys later. And for the audience, thanks for watching. It's been a fun, it's been an interesting hour. I mean, it's been fun to hear everybody's story, but it's, you know, it's obviously a very serious topic. But appreciate everybody for sticking around. Appreciate all of our guests, and thanks for watching as always. Check out the books in the description. You can hear Daniel's story, his year in Afghanistan, and Wombat and his book, and support him and his E2 adventures in fiction. Of course, they're not real. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching. See you next time.